Welcome everybody to another edition of Two Guys and a Mic. I'm one of your hosts, RP.
And I'm your other host, Big Sean. I hope everyone's doing well. It's good to be back on the air with you guys.
It's great to be back on the air, man. I almost lost my rhythm for being on the air.
Right.
Almost, not quite though.
I feel like it's been months since we've been on,
It feels like it's been months. It really hasn't, but it does feel that way. As you guys probably have picked up, Sean and I have been kind of spacing our shows out a little bit. The both of us are kind of doing some things outside of the show that have us a little more busy. We're also kind of in like this flow between sports, but don't sweat it. We're going to be with you guys as much as we can, and we're also going to make sure that as the sports pick up, that we pick up our broadcast as well. So that's just the way it's working out for us for right now. How you been, Sean?
I'm doing okay, man. Like I said, got a lot going through, kind of a transition, so a little bit tired, more mentally fatigued than anything, and just fighting through that and trying to get back into a routine and a rhythm. But what about yourself?
Same, man. I'm a little bit fatigued. I'm a little bit, I've been doing my little thing on the side as well, and I'm just a little bit mentally fatigued. I'm physically fatigued a little bit too because I'm
Right.
a little more busy. But
Right.
the physical part, the mental part of it is always, more the issue. I got to do some things. When you get back to work, you got to do things you don't really want to do. you got to make phone calls you don't really want to make. You got to talk to people you don't really want to talk to. So, just getting back in the swing of that kind of stuff is, been a little bit of a challenge. But, us, man, we up for the challenge. We'll figure it out. We'll make it all happen.
Exactly.
So, I think it's been what, 2 weeks, I think, or a week and a half or so since we were
something like that. Yeah, it's like
last week, you guys. I think one of the last topics we were talking on, it's kind of been resolved. So that was the J.J. Watt quote unquote saga. I don't know that it was a saga myself. I really wasn't that into it, but being a Browns fan and the Browns being pretty good this last season, and we expect for them to be good going forward. There's a bunch of people buzzing and a bunch of people trying to make trades for this dude. Sean offered up a bag of Doritos that he had in his house that he would not give up. He wouldn't even give up the old bag of Doritos for this dude. And since that time that we had that discussion, JJY signed for a bunch of bags of Doritos. I think that the Arizona Cardinals, who signed JJ, totally overpaid. What do you think about that, Sean?
I think so too, but I think they did us a favor. I don't know how much the Browns offered. That news really won't come out, but there was a rumor at first that the Browns had offered more and JJ spurned us or whatnot. But I was like, well, that don't really make sense. And then it came out later on that the Browns didn't offer more than Arizona. So he got a 2-year, $28 million deal. I believe $23 million is guaranteed. And that's fine. Like if if he wants to go and take that and go to Arizona, I'm not mad. A lot of people were upset thinking that he, should have came here and he didn't want to win. He went for the money. Of course he went for the money. He's an aging veteran. He's trying to cash out, especially with his injury history.
Yeah.
I'm just glad that we didn't sign him for, that type of money, though it's not my money, but I just thought the Browns had other options and better ways to go than spend that type of dough on him. Now, if he would have came here at a discounted deal, like we said before, that's all well and good. But to take up that much cap space right now at his age, that's something that I didn't want the Browns to do. So thank you, Arizona, for signing him before we had a chance to.
I thoroughly, wholeheartedly agree with that take. And actually, you kind of had some level of premonition that was going to be my next question. Like, what was your opinion or what was your feeling initially when you heard that he signed with Arizona? And I'll answer my own question since you already did your end of that. I was already like, nah. I don't. Again, at this point in his career, I don't know why we're chasing this guy. I
Yeah,
ain't chasing him.
exactly.
I don't see a purpose in chasing this dude. I'm not saying he doesn't have value. I'm not saying he doesn't have another good year or so in him. I'm not saying anything about his past. We all know who he was and who he's been. I'm saying going forward with what the Browns have, you put a significant dent in your cap space, even though they're
Right.
going to increase it this year and next year. Man, that's a lot of damn money, bro, for a
Right.
guy
And,
that
he's there holding court like he's Reggie White.
yeah.
Back in the day, I remember when Reggie White went on his free agency tour. He went to like 8 or 9 cities or something
I
like
was
that.
just getting ready to say, yeah, when he left Philly, he went about 16 places.
Right. But he was still highly effective at that time in his prime. So I get it. And everybody's like fawning and like, oh, JJ Watt, I'm like, he's not that
I
guy
just
anymore. Now,
yeah,
if he goes out there this year and has, if he even goes out there and gets 9 sacks, 9 or 10 sacks,
it's
I
a
think
plus.
that's if he does that,
Yeah.
I'll be more than willing to eat my words.
Well, listen,
about him, but
here's where I might deviate from where you are right now. If that guy goes out there and gets 8 or 9 sacks at $15 million a year, with 23 million of that being guaranteed money. So I'm just gonna say, for $23 million, I'm gonna need more than that, homie.
yeah, you're right.
I just need more than that. I can't see where at 23 million guaranteed dollars, 9 sacks ain't enough. Like Olivier Vernon had 9 sacks last year, and he made 11 million. So if this guy was about and that's my other thing. One of the things I kept hearing is that he was about winning. I'm not saying that he's not going to win or can't potentially win. I just think he had a better shot in terms of how he plays. I think it made more sense to be here because he didn't have to play that much. Down there, I think he's going to have to play all the time. And maybe he still feels like he can. I don't really think it's necessary, though, for him to play all the time, to play, 65 to 75 plays per game. I don't think that's where he's most effective anymore. At 32,
Right.
by the time the season starts, he'll be 32 and a half because I believe
And
his birthday is like at the end of the month.
and there probably, before it's all said and done, there'll probably be an extra game this year too, probably 17 games. But
Might
if you
be.
go back and look at his history here, like starting in 2016, I think when the injuries really start setting in, he had 1.5 sacks. The next year, I don't think he didn't play that much at all. 2017, he didn't have any sacks at all. 2018, he rebounded, had a great year, had 16 sacks. 2019, he got hurt again, only had 4. And then last year, he played a full season, but he only had, 5 sacks.
And that team kind of stunk too. So
even like his tackle numbers and stuff went down. So I mean, to me, it just looks like he's the guy on the downside of his career. And like I said before, I'm glad that the Browns didn't sign him, because you can either draft a guy that's younger, get the same, but you can draft a college guy and get 5 sacks, 6 sacks without paying that type of money. So
yeah, I mean, think about this too, bro. We had guys that weren't named Myles Garrett, that weren't named Olivier Vernon, that played on the edge, that got sacks and got forced fumbles and fumble recoveries. So you don't have to go out and get this guy to affect your defense that same way. Now, let's switch this. Let's flip the coin over a little bit. let's not consider J.J. Watt's end of this, and let's think about the Cardinals. Do you think that now with this addition to their defense, they had a pretty solid defense last year, numbers wise? I think they were like 10th in the league or total defense. Do you think this now makes them the team to beat in the NFC? Do you think that this now makes them the team to beat in their division? Are they now like the Super Bowl contenders or no?
No, not at all. Now, they do have a very good defense anyway. Well, at least I won't say a very good defense. I will say an emerging defense. Buda Baker seems like he's going to be a great player. I love watching that kid play. He still got Chandler Jones. You know, he's up there too.
Yeah.
You know, so I think they're going to end up cutting Patrick Peterson because he's getting up there. So I mean, they have some pieces, parts, and stuff there. What's the kid, Isaiah Washington from Clemson?
Yeah.
Hassan Reddick, who may be a casualty of them signing J.J. Watt. So he may get released. So they're like okay, but I don't see him like putting them over the top. For one thing, Cliff Kingsbury is going to be Arizona's demise anyway. I don't care who they got. I mean, he'll figure out a way to mess it up.
You think?
Yeah, I'm not a big Cliff Kingsbury fan at all.
I was always wondering how that dude got. I mean, and I think we know how he got, but in my mind, I'm like, man, how did this dude get, elevated over some other people, out of nowhere, basically.
Well, I mean, it's this whole. You remember you went through this whole phase of people trying to find the next McVay. Remember, you want the young, hotshot, offensive-minded guru. So he ran that air raid system, down in at Texas Tech and all of that. Never won a thing when he was down there
At all.
Any level. Even when he played quarterback, he didn't win nothing when he was down there. And I think they do okay because they have talent. Kyler Murray. I'm not a Kyler Murray fan either, but the kid is talented. He can play. I don't know how long he'll be able to play because being that size, and they run him like they do Lamar Jackson, like call plays for him. He can't take that type of punishment.
Right.
And expect to survive. Larry Fitzgerald is Fitzgerald. And of course, you have the great DeAndre Hopkins. Kenyon Drake had a pretty decent year. So they have some guys, they can be competitive. They can even win that division because that division is weird and going through a transition. So they have enough talent where they can do a little bit of damage, but I don't see them, being a championship contender. And I don't think J.J. Watt, either way, doesn't make them better, doesn't make them worse. Now, he's a good locker room guy. You know what I'm saying? He's going to bring some leadership. That's going to help. I won't totally dismiss that factor of it, but, it is what it is.
Yeah, I didn't see where that made them like any more of a Super Bowl contender than what they might have already been. Again, one of the initial things that I kept hearing about him was that he wanted to go somewhere where he was going to win. And honestly, nobody brought up Arizona. Not that he couldn't go to Arizona and win. You know what I mean? We all know that he could possibly go to Arizona and win, but nobody was like, oh, here are the teams that he could go to and possibly win. Arizona was not in that group of people that people were mentioning. It was always us, being the Cleveland Browns. It was, Green Bay, and then it was Pittsburgh. Like the teams that made the most sense for whatever he was going to do.
He's probably looking at weather as a factor too. They got a similar stadium.
That's what I thought. To be honest with you, when I heard where he ended up, that's exactly what I said. I'm like, listen, this dude has played his whole life in cold weather, growing up in Wisconsin and then going to school in Wisconsin. He's been in Houston his whole pro career. Man, he like, the hell with that. I ain't going to damn Green Bay or Cleveland or you know how Cleveland weather is, man. You got like maybe the first 2 or 3 games, and everything after that is a crapshoot.
Right. Is he married? I think he's
Yeah, he's
married.
married. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
married.
I'm sure. Yeah, his spouse probably had to say so on that too.
So, and you know, and that proximity wise, think about this: when Emmitt Smith left the Cowboys, where did he go?
Yeah, Arizona.
So it's a I think it's a proximity thing. He can still stay climate wise if his wife decides, hey man, listen, you go play ball, and I'm just gonna be here with the kids or whatever.
Right.
You know, proximity wise, close. It's not like you know, going say you go to the Raiders, but you used to play for the Giants. It's not
Yeah,
like
and people and like the media never takes that into account. They always look at straight either the money aspect or the chance to win. And people
yeah,
forget these guys got families and family
yeah,
decisions too. It's like, yeah,
especially at this point in
it's
their
like,
career.
yeah, you can go ahead and sign and go play in New England if you want to. But if your wife not cool with that, especially if y'all been in a warm climate all the time,
Yeah,
you know, if she
yeah,
don't sign off on it, you know,
yeah. And
that
we
can make
don't know
things a
where
little bit
she's from.
difficult.
Like we don't know if she was from Wisconsin. I don't know that right off top. Not off the top of my head, I don't. But let's say he got to Houston and met her. You know what I mean? So maybe her whole family is from there. So maybe in her mind, she's like, hell no, I ain't going to no damn Cleveland. I ain't going to no
Right.
damn, you know, Green Bay. I like visiting your family, but that's why we visit in the off season. We're not going, you know, we ain't trying to shovel 15 feet of snow every year.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's there is something to be said about the family dynamic that is some of these guys. A guy like TJ, he's 32. He's got a whole ass family at this point. He's not 22, who might have a girlfriend. He's
Right.
wife, kid, or kids, plural, with a house, properties, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's a lot more going on in his situation. And that's what you're going to end up with in some of these guys that are 25 plus in age. You're and it's easier to, I think it's easier to kind of uproot guys that are, and then when I say uproot, we can switch teams. When you're single, or you might have you know, like a little kid, like a toddler. But when you get school age kids, man, it's tough. It's tough. And I'm a guy that traveled a lot. When you got school age kids, people are like, why don't you just move to Vegas because you travel out there so much? Man, that's a lot. It's a lot because the kids understand their surroundings now. You know what I mean? They know, they like, damn, we ain't gonna never find no friends. And I moved a lot as a kid. I didn't get settled until I got to Warrensville, really. We moved a lot, you know, for a period of time in my life anyway. So people do underestimate the importance of
Yeah, and especially if you have a choice of where you want to go. Now, if you're a free agent coming at, let's say you're JJ Watt, you're a free agent, but you're not having that many offers. Now you kind of guess got to go where the money is at, and that's maybe a little bit different scenario there.
yeah,
That's like, well, I really don't have a choice. I need to go
yeah.
make this money. It is what it is. Y'all got to deal with it, you know. But in this case, when you actually have a choice, you can choose where you want to go. That
And
makes
it
all
ain't many people.
the world.
There's not many people that have that situation where they do have a full-fledged choice. Like any team that they pick, the team will do whatever to make sure that he's accommodated. It's not many people like that. So yeah, JJ Watt's in a different kind of a zone. Unlike probably if they end up cutting, let's say they end up cutting Hassan Riddick, there won't be a lot of people. I won't say all 32 teams are going to make room for this guy.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? Guys like JJ Watt, people they'll start jettisoning folks off the squad, even valuable people. Because I think if they don't re-sign or pick up Hassan Reddick, it's going to be a problem because they don't have an outside linebacker that's better than him on that team. So, you know what I mean? Like it causes other issues, but in their mind, they're like, I don't give a damn. We got JJ Watt. So the smoke and mirrors that fans won't pay attention to is you actually got worse potentially defensively Because again, J.J. Watt is 32. He's not 22. He's not 27. He's not 28 or 29 even. The dude is 32. And
with injury history. So
and all of those, he's 32 with potentially, I would say, a 37, 38-year-old, maybe depending on, I don't know the extent of all of his injuries, but I'd say he's at least 5 years older because of those injuries.
right.
So I used to say the same thing about Kobe. When Kobe was 33, I'm like, shit, he's 33. He really like 43 with the broke fingers and the hurt shoulders and the ankles and all that stuff. And then he messed around and tore his Achilles that year.
Right.
So that's the accumulation of just years and years and years and years, where it's one of the great things about LeBron is a guy who could just figure a way to stay healthier and work your body to a certain point to where you don't have the serious injuries. Like that's an incredible testament. But going back to where this all started, J.J. Watt comes from the ilk of the Kobe Bryant type athlete, where not that you don't prepare yourself, but I don't think they do the preventative stuff that's available for guys like LeBron, or that LeBron did, investing millions of dollars into his body, eating properly, Tom Brady's eating properly, making sure everything is lined up a certain kind of way, being super disciplined. I don't know that J.J. Watt has done that, so I think the age is on his body, and I think it'll show at some point. At some point in the season, it's going to show. We saw it a little bit this year. He wasn't that effective this year, and I know that defense was awful, and I know that mentally they probably were all checked out because they didn't like anything that was going on with that organization. But I mean, who knows, man? A little bit of motivation might change how he plays. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, I'll be more than happy to eat my words if he goes out and has a great season. So we will see how that plays out.
I want to bring up something real quick before we switch gears out of football. I saw my man Hollywood Higgins came out the other day and made almost a plea to the Browns front office, saying basically, "Hey man, I got my own pen. I just
I saw it. I saw that.
My man say, hey y'all, don't forget about me over here. I'm still sitting over here with no offer. I don't even want to go nowhere else."
Because they can't make a when can they start signing people?
Where are we?
Because they can only because here's the thing. I didn't know this. The reason why Arizona could sign J.J. Watt because he technically got cut.
Yeah, that's why.
So that's why you get cut. You can sign.
It's not free agent. It's not the free agent period yet.
Yeah,
it's not the free agent period. Let me see when free agency starts. Officially,
I know it's usually sometime in March. But I thought with COVID and the way stuff went, I thought they were pushing everything up, moving it, making it a little bit sooner. But I guess not.
The COVID has kind of screwed up how I view everything, because I always assume there's a reason why this ain't doing this. It's because of COVID. Like COVID is like the built-in excuse for everything.
Right.
Like, damn, why my oil low? Why my oil low? Oh, COVID. That's why. And that's the only reason. Free agency.
Oh, March 17th.
Yep.
So that means that we'll start hearing rumblings probably around the 14th, 15th.
Probably in about a week and a half.
Yeah.
We'll start to hear a few more things that have you, wondering. But I like the fact that he feels like reaching out, on his own, because he really didn't have to. I think Higgins is a good receiver. It's something that dude ain't doing in practice, though.
Yeah, we talked about that before. Yeah, something that's a little somewhere with that.
I think there's some bit of a disconnect. It ain't with the fellas. It ain't with the players. It's some level of disconnect between the team itself, the front office and some of the coaching and the coaching staff. But I do still hope. I hold out hope because I think that there's a connection between Fake and between Higgins. I ain't calling him Hollywood though. He did have some really good catches this year, but he got to do a little bit more before I call it Hollywood.
Right. But I think you and me and the whole city of Cleveland feels the same way. All Browns fans want to bring Higgins back because he just fits in well. And I think, honestly, if you bring him back next year, now that this coaching staff knows what he can do and everybody gets a fresh start from the beginning with this offense, I think Higgins would be, set to have a big year in terms of a third receiver.
I think so.
You know what I'm saying? I think he'll be very, very productive. Now, here's one question we can talk about. What do you do with Njoku? Now, I'll say this. We were kind of down on Njoku going into the season, even early in the season. He didn't have a lot of catches this year at all. The thing that I was impressed with is that he got to a point where he just played his role. He kind of stopped, complaining, stopped asking to be traded, and actually became a pretty good blocking tight end, which is something that he wasn't known for. He totally bought in, and I like that. And I think he can be actually a very valuable asset to this team. But now that the season's over, you're hearing the rumblings again, like, okay, I want out. And I don't think he wants out because he doesn't like it here. I just think he wants to go somewhere where he can be more featured. And I understand, okay, that's fine. Like, that shows you want to play or you believe in yourself that you have that talent to be that guy. So what would you do? Would you trade him, or would you just say, hey man, you want a contract and suck it up?
Me personally, I'm kind of in between the suck it up part and potentially looking at trading him. Now, let me be all the way clear when I say that. Am I saying I want to get rid of Njoku? I think that there was a period of time where I did want to get rid of him, where I thought it just behooved us to get rid of him. Especially when he came out like, yo, I just want to be traded. All right. Because he hadn't done much to even separate himself from, those other guys, which is why we had to go out, or the Browns felt like they had to go out and get a Hooper. But I feel 100% like you feel. I saw a lot of improvement in him, say from, let's say, he almost was non-existent from, say, game 1 to 5.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, you started seeing him get a couple catches here, a couple catches there. He had a touchdown or so. But as the season got more important, games got more important, I started seeing this guy making more important plays. I started seeing this guy be the guy, because what I saw in our other two guys that were starting, Harrison, Bryant, and Hooper, those guys start falling off towards the end of the season. They weren't doing the same stuff that they were doing in the beginning of the season. And the one guy that was making plays, because look at that Chiefs game. What tight end played the best in that Chiefs game?
Njoku.
It was Njoku. So
right.
Me saying that I would be between those two positions is me saying, listen, he played well enough that if guys are going to inquire about him, let's see what we can get. But
yeah, because he does have probably a little bit more value now than he did last year.
Yeah, but at the same time, guess what? I also saw that as the front office guy. I saw what you're capable of. I saw how you've grown. They say they want to make the whole offense. Kevin Stefanski, what was this? What's today? Today's Thursday, so this was like Tuesday. Stefanski said he want to make the offense more explosive. You telling me the offense is somehow going to be more explosive without vertical tight ends? I think not.
Yeah.
I think
like if he and his agents really insistent on getting out of here, and you can get fourth round pick or at the most a third round, I'll do it. I'll let him go. And then you can go sign Kyle Rudolph is aging, but he's a veteran tight end, has experience with
Jared Cook is out there, and Jared Cook is a good blocker.
Yeah.
He got released. So
no, he's with New Orleans, rather.
He got released.
Okay.
They released him. So I'm saying you have there's other guys, other veterans if you just want to have, and he's a great locker room guy, by the
way.
Right. So and they might pick him back up, just because they cut him. You know how that works. Just because you got cut, if somebody doesn't pick him up, he can get re-signed with the same squad. They could have just cut him because of the numbers on his contract. Because if Drew Brees, now the question is, does Drew Brees come back for it?
I saw that he was working out trying to look, Drew, you've had a great career. You have enough passing yards to throw around the earth like 15 times.
Yeah.
Almost literally. Just go ahead and buy. I know you don't want to go out that way, but you can tell that you were losing that, man. I don't want to see you out there stumbling around the way that Joe Namath was stumbling around and what was it at San Diego? Where did Joe Namath end up at?
Frisco. I think he ended up in Frisco.
Or the Rams. No, he was with the Rams.
Or was it the Rams? Oh, I'm thinking about OJ. OJ went to Frisco.
Right.
And it was all bad.
I want to see you out there hobbling around. As a matter of fact, if you do decide to come back, you're probably gonna get cut. Because I don't think Sean Payton is like, nah, because he know that window was closing. He was like, nah, we got to go in a different direction. Younger, you don't want to, have that embarrassment and try to go find another team. Just go ahead and hang it up, Drew. No, don't do it.
At this point, every team with a veteran quarterback that's not the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are that's not Tampa Bay and not Green Bay quite yet. They're all looking at their quarterback don't you want to get the hell out of here?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's crazy that's what it becomes at a certain point, because it is a business. So these teams are like, yo, bro.
Especially in the NFL. The NFL, unlike any other major sport, people always was like, well, no, New England can't cut Tom Brady because he's Tom Brady, or San Francisco can't cut Joe Montana because it's Joe Montana. And it happens all the time.
Happens damn near every year. Alex Smith.
Big Ben almost got, because I somehow, and thank you, Pittsburgh, thank you, Roonies, for restructuring Big Ben's deal and bringing him back for another year so we can beat up on him again next year. Thank you. But he was almost another victim of that, getting cut by a team that he's been with this whole career. So it happens.
No, it happens. And it happens to guys that win divisions. It happens to guys that win a lot of games, that have a lot of records in the passing record books. It happens to guys that win a lot of conference championships, and to guys that win multiple Super Bowls.
If you think about Brady, it's almost happened to it's almost happened to some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Yeah.
Almost all of them have gotten
Joe
cut.
Montana and Tom Brady have both been traded and or not picked up as a free agent. Brett Favre, another one. I mean, come on, bro. Yep. Some of the best quarterbacks, Warren Moon, some of the best quarterbacks who've ever played the game have had to move on to other teams. Some of the best wide receivers, Jerry Rice, went to Oakland. These guys end up freaking. We just said it earlier in the show. Emmitt Smith went to Arizona. Eventually, the team just says, listen, man, we don't believe there's nothing else you can do for us. And even if there is, we're not willing to pay you to do it for us.
Right.
not exactly. at that number. You know what I mean? So it ends up happening. I think
Peyton Manning. We got about Peyton Manning.
Peyton, yep. I left Peyton off that list. I don't know how I did, but Peyton, another all-time great who was, I think the first year he was in Denver, he was Peyton Manning. Those last 2 years or so, I mean, that dude was just winging it. He was barely, I mean, he was back there on the hover round, just like hoping, throwing balls and just hoping. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, he still got released or still got, moved to the point where he had to look for another team. Who would have ever thought a guy like Peyton Manning would have to go look for another team?
Right.
It's ridiculous. So the stuff happens, and it's okay. And that's where we are in the NFL again. Thank you, Pittsburgh, for working that out and bringing back Ben, because you do need Ben Roethlisberger to finish third, because he ain't finishing higher than third in this division coming up this year. Pittsburgh will be third or last. And that's, I mean, with everything being equal, I think if we stay healthy and the Ravens stay healthy, it'll be a two-man race between us and Baltimore. Am I getting ahead of myself? Maybe, but it's my ass. It's my whole ass. I think it's okay for me to get ahead of myself.
But again, that kind of shows you how loyal Pittsburgh is to their guys. Where there's like, you know what, we really don't want to. We're not that franchise. We'll try to figure out something.
Certain guys, not every one of them.
Not everybody, right? That's true.
Because there's some guys that, aside from the knuckleheads who kind of threw themselves out, there's some guys that they just. It's only been like a handful of guys they just stuck with. Hines, they just stuck with.
Normally, it's the guys on defense. They don't.
It's those damn linebackers that they're just like,
we'll find.
We got the best 3 years. We got the best 3 years out of you was ever gonna have. Peace out.
Right.
And they did it to the best of the best. They did it to Greg Lloyd. They did it to freaking
James Harrison.
James Harrison, that damn crazy ass nutcase. They've done it to every linebacker that they've ever had. Just about pretty much every linebacker they've ever had. They just been like, yeah, we reached our minimum with you.
Right.
Hardy, you're out of here. Boom, you're gone. You're gone. This guy's gone. That guy, Hardy Nickerson, get out. No, you're no good no more. Not for us. You can go somewhere else and do that, but you can't do it here.
You know what? Somebody brought this up the other day. I think it was I don't know if you're familiar with Garrett Bush, but
yeah.
He brought this up on his blog that the one thing the Browns haven't had are great linebackers. And the reason why I brought that up, because all the linebackers you're naming, it's like, my God, they've had linebacker after linebacker after linebacker after linebacker come through Pittsburgh. And since the Browns have I can't even just say since the Browns have been back, even going back into the 80s.
Yeah, period.
We've had okay, very, very good linebackers. But we haven't had the Hall of Fame type guys, the difference making type on a consistent. People listen to this, that they'll bring up Clay Matthews. I'm talking about consistently. I'm not talking about one or two guys. The guys we just named off in Pittsburgh, we just named off like 6 guys, and we can name off probably another 10, 15.
Look, we named off 6 guys from at least 4 different eras.
Right.
They weren't even all on the same squad. This is like from different eras of them terrorizing us. So when you can have a Kevin Green, if you got a Kevin Green on your team, that's enough in most cases. But then you mess around and have a Kevin Green and a Hardy Nickerson.
Greg Lloyd. Yeah. That's
Lloyd,
why I used to play with Pittsburgh on Tecmo Bowl back in the day. I had 4 linebackers and Rod Woodson. I run around and shut everything
what
down.
The hell you about to do offensively? What the hell you about to do with that?
Nothing.
You just you in the damn huddle, like, I mean, you in the damn behind the center, like looking around like it don't even matter. It just don't matter. Whatever we run, it ain't gonna matter. I ain't gonna get this ball out of my hand quick enough. And if I do, you got this ball hawking cornerback over here. Like, it was just bad. It was just bad. These guys always have those guys. And we're just talking about Pittsburgh because let's be truthful. The Ravens are very similar. They have some of the best linebackers, even though they go to other teams, like a Paul Kruger, go to our team and don't play the exact same way or up to the same standard. But when he was in Baltimore, he was a monster. Where he was causing ruckus. I won't say he was a full-fledged monster, but he was causing ruckus, which is easy because you got Ray in the middle, and you got freaking crazy ass over here on this side. Ain't nobody checking me. Right. Ain't nobody checking me because everybody over there. So Paul Kruger has some really good years. That's what ends up happening. And all of those defenses, you get the difference though is Pittsburgh had great linebackers all the way across. All those guys are really good. All of those guys are like borderline, if not total Hall of Famers. And the Browns don't have any of that. I think I've always heard, and I remember Chip Banks, but he was such a flash because that was early in the Browns' success.
Yeah, he didn't play that long. Like I said, we had very, very good linebackers. Mike Johnson
had Hall of Fame type of potential as a young guy. He was a young guy when he passed away. So that was the one potential. Of course, we ended up with guys like Pepper and Eddie Johnson, who were both right at the cusp potentially of Hall of Fame, but they weren't Hall of Famers. They weren't the monsters. And by the time we
didn't get Pepper Johnson until
I was just getting ready to say, by the time we got Pep, he had already won 2 Super Bowls and was on a definite downside of his career. So, and he still played good for us now, but he didn't play Hall of Fame good for us,
Yeah,
so
we just didn't have that dude.
We never had. We've never had that.
We had like Dwayne Rudd was like all right when he was here. DeQuell Jackson was all right.
Let's not forget about Mike Junkin.
Oh man, why you gotta bring him up? That bum. Mike Johnson was one of my favorite Browns back in the day, and he was like, I love
good. Mike. I think Mike Johnson was very underrated. Personally, I think he was very underrated. Mike was a monster to me. Him and Eddie, I ain't care what nobody said. They was brothers. I used to just say that. The Johnson and Johnson, they brothers, dog, or cousins or something. They family.
Right.
But Mike was my guy. I loved Mike Johnson. But these guys didn't have to be the athletic, fast guys because the game was different back then. Now you have guys that can be, that are lateral, side to side, like their shuttle speeds are stupid numbers. They can get to the quarterback. They can cover guys. You have a lot of these guys floating around.
Right.
And we never end up with those guys.
Now, I keep hearing that analytics does not value linebackers. And I want to say this to Andrew Berry. Like, I don't know how true that is because I'm not going to pretend like I'm hip to that, to that area of analytics. But, Andrew Berry, like, we need speed at linebacker. I heard the Browns are courting Levante David for what it's worth. I know you can't technically court anybody at this particular point in time.
Right.
But evidently, Andrew Berry listens to our show, and he heard our plea. Because now I'm hearing Levante David.
Or Levante David listens to our show, and he touched in. He say, "Man, I gotta get in with these guys."
Exactly.
I gotta get in with these guys.
So I think when it comes to the Browns linebacker, I think it's two decisions that the front office has to make. First decision is, do you think that Phillips, Taki, and Mac Wilson are ready to make that next leap? Do you think they had the potential to do that? If the answer is yes, I said you check me. I kind of agree with you. But if they deem that based on their analysis. They blame if they say yes, then it's like, okay, maybe in the draft you maybe try to pick up maybe a veteran linebacker or whatever for depth, and you kind of go from there. If the answer is no, which is I think what they're thinking is, okay, how many, like, what do you do? Are you going to address this in free agency or the draft? Or are you going to do both? Now, my preference is this. I don't know who's in the draft, whoever's the top linebacker in the draft. Well, we drafted what, in the 20s?
Mm-hmm.
So we may not be able to get the top guys, but you target, whoever's in that, that's going to fall to that slot, right? Whether it be a defensive end or a linebacker, either or. Finally, people are starting to bring up Von Miller. I've been saying Von Miller for a couple of weeks. Yes, he's coming off an injury, but look at his numbers prior to that. He's still been very, very productive. And he's versatile. He's the guy that you can either put on the line at times, or you can have him stand up as a linebacker. You can move him around. I think he would fit in well here. And then there's Levante David. I think you can get both of those guys. So I don't think Von Miller may have to spend that much money.
I was just getting ready to say that. So I agree. I agree with you on that. I agree.
So if you get both of those guys, and I'm not saying you cut Taki and them guys. I think you still bring those guys back. They're young.
Yeah.
Now you've kind of you got is your linebacking core perfect? No, but now it's a lot better, and you've got a veteran presence.
I think having, if you have the opportunity to get a Levante David, and then you put that moves, probably more than likely it'll move Taki to the depth guy, because I think they'll probably still play Mac at some point. I think Mac will still end up playing, because I think, honestly, athletically and what he actually brings to the field, you probably want him on the field. He needs to tackle better and all that kind of stuff, but having a Levante David, having Mac on the other side, the question is, who do you have in the middle?
Right now, they say that the front office likes Jacob Phillips a lot. They really like that kid. He just can't. He hasn't been able to stay on the field.
I like him too. Yeah, and that's an issue. But Mac Wilson is the guy that I saw as a rookie to the guy that I saw this year. I see improvement. Same thing I can say for Taki. Again, I'm with you. I don't think you're just saying that these guys are trash and you throw them out. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, do you turn the team over to these guys right now? No. I think having that veteran presence is another reason why I thought bringing in B.J. Goodson for another maybe 2 years or so.
I haven't heard his name at all. But to be honest with you, because it's not free agency period, you really haven't heard a whole lot about anybody. Really, J.J. Watt's been the main guy in the news.
But like you say, that's because he was cut, so that gives a team the opportunity.
Right.
There's a lot of people that got cut, but again, these people that got cut, other teams have to figure out where those guys are going to fit. A guy like J.J. Watt, man, we're going to push a motherfucker off this boat for him. That's the kind of cachet that he brings. I'm not saying that we should have done it. I'm not saying that at all. But when you have a big name like that, which is why everybody was pushing so hard, fan-wise, pushing so hard to get this dude here or wanting him here, because in their mind, he's going to have 101 sacks in the 2 years that he's here. So he'll have 200.
Because he's opposite, Myles Garrett. You can't double team. I was like, you really ain't got to double team J.J. Watt no more.
Listen, which is why my own processes. If you go back, guys, and listen to the show from a couple weeks ago, we talked about this specifically. To me, if you bring this guy in here You got J.J. Watt over here. You got Miles over here. Guess what? Go ahead and double team this guy. But you got a fresh J.J. Watt because he don't have to be down here for 75 plays. My thought was you bring J.J. Watt in and then you draft a young guy that can swap time with him.
Right, I got you. Right.
A tackling edge guy, so who can stop the run and stuff like that. And you just bring in this kid or this dude rather to jump up, bat down balls and to just put pressure on quarterbacks in those pressure type situations. To me, and now you're keeping this guy fresh. So now you've gone from 70 plays at 32 and really, like I said, about 36, 37 with the injuries on his body. Now you go from 70 plays potentially to about 40 or 35 to 40. Man, I feel like I ain't even play today. So
Right.
when you do bring him in on 3rd and 12, man, he gonna strike fear in cats. I don't know that he has that in Arizona. But maybe he wanted to play more. Maybe he ain't ready to tuck it in and play less plays and be more efficient because of how he could play. I thought he could have been more efficient here. I'm not advocating or saying that the Browns dropped the ball in any way, shape, or form, but just if I was his agent, I would have been pushing for him to go somewhere like here where he doesn't have to play so much and play so hard. But
right, I got
it
you.
is what it is. It is what it is.
And also, I saw that Greedy Williams, I guess, has been, I don't want to say activated like he's been on the injury list in the offseason, but evidently he's 100% healthy and ready to go. I personally don't have any faith in him at all right now. Like he's really gonna have to prove it.
I got that much faith in him.
Right.
Zero.
I'm hearing, people want to go out and trade for Marshawn Lattimore. I'm not a big fan of that either. Not trading for him right now. He didn't have that great season last year.
I'm not trading for him, but I would like to see Marshawn here.
Yeah, if we could have picked him up as a free agent, yeah, but I don't want to give up assets for him right now. I think we can go get a guy in the draft or free agency right now to plug in that hole as far as the other corner. So, all right, man. So we'll probably have plenty to talk about as far as the Browns are concerned once free agency really gets started in earnest. And trust me, if the Browns do something stupid, we will be here to talk about it and drag Andrew Berry through the mud. Hopefully we don't have to. We're trying to stay positive.
Easily, but for right now, everything is good and peaceful in Cleveland Browns land. So
It's weird for us because normally it's chaos this time of year.
Normally
it's chaos and Berea from the time the season ends, that last game of the season, that is week 17, up until the draft, is chaos. We have no idea what's going on. All the stories come out about how dysfunctional the team was, and the coaches.
At this point, they're still possibly looking for a coach. At this point, they're possibly still looking for a general manager.
Right. A quarterback.
We got an owner who is, going through legal stuff. Like it's always something coming into.
And it's just eerily quiet. Like listen to the radio, the talk shows, they have nothing to talk about.
They're spewing the exact same stuff. Like I check in every so I don't check in a lot. I'm not a big local sports talk guy anymore. But when I do check in just to see what, checking the pulse on things, they're not talking about anything.
No, they're actually talking about the Cavs quite a bit, which kind of surprised me because normally when LeBron left, anytime LeBron is like the last 15 years that he's not here, like the Cavs are really on the back page.
Ain't nobody talking about the Cavs. Only time they kind of talked about the Cavs was when Kyrie was here by himself. And then, Kyrie won the All-Star MVP and the Rookie of the Year and all that stuff. So everybody was kind of high that year that we hired David Blatt. Everybody was kind of high. But it was also this little buzz that LeBron might be coming back. So that kind of
Right.
got in the way of that. And then all of a sudden he actually came his ass back. But since we're talking Cavs, let's switch gears a little bit, homie. And let's talk Cavs.
All right.
So earlier this season, before the season started, should I say? I shouldn't say earlier this season. But before the season started, you and I kind of looked at the schedule and looked at the team, and we kind of, decided that whatever people had picked for this team, where they picked us to finish, where they picked us to be at, we were like, I don't think so. I think the initial prognosticators gave us like 27 games, I think.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something along, it wasn't more than 28 games. So 27 games they gave us, and we both kind of, I won't say we scoffed at it. We just didn't agree. We thought, I think you said 34.
So like
and
5 or something.
I think, I think I said something like 33-ish, 34-ish as well. Just a game or so difference between what we thought. As of yesterday, the Cavs are 14-22. You would say, most people would say that's awful. It's not really, considering
considering how raggedy that roster is right now.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. That's I was gonna try to explain it a little bit better, but that's probably honestly the right way to do it. Instead of trying to be so
sugar-coated, diplomatic.
Listen, that roster is raggedy, and one of the guys that we were depending on helping this roster not be so bad, actually two guys that we expected to help not have this roster be so bad, aren't on the floor. That being one being Andre Drummond, and the other being Kevin Porter Jr. They're not. Kevin Porter's not on the team anymore, and then Andre has been asked not to play.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up, Gings. We talked about that before, about how weird it is to have to sit a guy a whole month before the trading deadline. And people, when I listen to the talking heads, nobody seems to seem like this is weird that we've asked them to sit for a whole month. Normally, you don't ask a guy to sit until a couple of days before the deal is about to go down.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think, to me personally, I think this is more the Cavs are doing what they did with J.R. Smith. Something happened in the locker room or behind the scenes where they weren't coming into some type of disagreement, and the Cavs just told him, look, we'll pay you to sit at home. And now, if we can trade you, we will. If we don't, you ain't got a free $28 million, Merry Christmas, and peace out when the season's over with.
Now, here's a question. As you were talking, it kind of entered my head. Tell me this. Do you think that the Cavs just rolled up on a veteran and say, yo, man, we don't want you to play no more, XYZ, and he was just like, all right, cool? Or do you think that this was more of a mutual scenario? Like, maybe he was like, listen, we ain't going nowhere, we ain't doing nothing, I don't really want to be here.
It could be a mutual thing. But I think that there was still some type of misunderstanding somewhere. Because they were saying, like, there was stuff coming out that Bickerstaff had to keep getting on Drummond about his hustle during the game. And I noticed a few times where Drummond was getting frustrated, especially at the end of games, where they would pull him off the court during crunch time, or Colin wasn't feeding. It was all Colin down the stretch, and they weren't using Drummond. I could tell his demeanor on his face is like, man, it's like, I'm here, I'm playing, because Andre Drummond's credit, he played pretty well, except for the 4 or 5 boneheaded plays that he do during the game. The effort was there. You know what I'm saying? I didn't see him really dogging it. I think somewhere there was a disconnect, and I think both parties came to an agreement. It's like, look, man, you just go ahead and chill.
That's what I think. I mean, I can't totally disagree with there being some level of disruption or some level of disagreement, so to speak, between how things actually are going on the court or on the sideline or whatever.
Right.
I think Bickerstaff is a younger guy's coach. Not that Drummond is so old. I think Drummond's only like 27. So it's not like he's like some old fogey type of guy, but he's more of a, hey, I need you to play hard and I'm gonna do this and you need to do this. Once you start making 30 million in the league, man, and we not winning the title, and we don't even really have a chance to win the title. It's a lot of guys in the league that's like,
right.
And I'm already look, and a guy like Drummond is thinking, show me another dude in the league to get rebounds like I get. Like even if he's not doing it all the time for us, to him in here, he's like, man, it's 31 other teams that want me, dog.
Right. And one more point. And so you're not throwing Andre under the bus saying, hey, we came to a mutual agreement and he's not gonna play. That doesn't really make the players sound that good. So you basically, the team kind of takes the hit and says, hey, we're going to sit him down and try to trade him. That therefore doesn't look bad.
It doesn't look like he quit. It doesn't look like he quit.
Right. Because I think the Pistons are doing the same thing with Blake Griffin. Now, here's the weird thing. And those are the only 2 guys that are doing it. I don't hear any other team sitting one of their guys down for a whole month.
What, Blake Griffin probably needs that. As much as he's been injured, Blake Griffin probably needs.
Now, what happens? Because here's my thing. You said this guy for a whole month, he's collecting dust, not playing. What if you don't trade him? What if you don't trade him? Then what?
Then
nobody addressed that scenario. They probably
just gonna end up doing a buyout.
A buyout, right? Because if somebody wanted Andre Drummond and Blake Griffin by now, the trade would have been done. Or it don't take no month to figure. You know what I'm saying? Like, the trade. The pot is gonna get no sweeter in 2 weeks.
But bro, all them cats, all 31 of those other teams know exactly what we know. Those dudes don't want to be where they are. The teams don't necessarily want them, and they're only stalling for pieces and parts. The only reason that they didn't move these guys, because I'm sure there's been offers on the table. The only reason they didn't move these guys is because they weren't offered what the teams themselves want, right? So as the Cavs are like, yo, we got a 2020 guy. We're looking for, I don't know, a high, maybe you don't get a first round pick, but we're looking for a high second round or a player or a first round maybe in the draft after this one. They like, shit, why? When in about a week or 2 or 2 weeks or whatever after the All-Star and all that stuff, once the trade deadline go away, guess what? You're just gonna sign a dude off and he's gonna be gone. You're gonna waive him.
And I don't think everybody's clamoring for Andre, especially today's NBA.
Nobody's really clamoring for the guy per se. Not per se. However, I'll tell you this. A dude that can average 14 to 20 rebounds in any stretch is some level of an asset on some level.
I agree 100%.
I talk a lot of crap about Tristan Thompson when he was here, but he did have stretches where he was killing the boards. So he was earning, or at least allowing me to say, hey, listen, I talk a lot of junk. For these 2 weeks, I can't say nothing. The dude he's killing it. Andre Drummond, on the other hand, we ain't talking about just 2 weeks. We're talking about a guy who generally averages 14. Listen, who in the hell else averages 14 rebounds a game?
Like nobody, not in today's NBA.
Not
So,
in today's game. Not in
so
today's game.
right. So I
So
mean,
he's
so
an
that's
asset.
interesting how that's going to play out. Also, I'm not buying this Kevin Love injury either. And here's why I'm not buying it. Because
Well,
the times when Kevin Love does show up to the games, he running around, jumping on chairs,
look,
Darius
the only
Garland
reason,
jumping on his back. I'm like, dude, if you hurt, you doing all this extracurricular activities and stuff
the
like that.
only
Like,
reason
man,
I
you ain't
buy
hurt.
it, bro, the only reason I buy it is because this is typical Kevin Love. Kevin Love, especially, let me rephrase that. Let me rephrase that. Because that'll sound wrong if people just hear me say that and don't say something behind it. Not typical Kevin Love. This is the newer after post Kyrie, post LeBron Kevin Love. I got $27 million coming, and this team stinks. So
Right.
I don't see any need. Last I heard, maybe potentially LeBron wanted me to come to LA. So yeah, I'll run and jump on the chair, but I ain't trying to rebound. I
That's what I'm
don't want to
saying.
get hit in the nose or tear an ACL on the court. I leave me on the side. So I don't. I've always said Kevin Love was way soft. I've never been the dude who felt like getting Kevin Love was the game changing move that got us to the finals. I think we could have won the finals without Kevin Love the first year. And Kevin never really was just that guy that we thought he was going to be. And some of that is because of how LeBron needed him to play. However,
Right.
however, my thoughts about Kevin Love are, man.
Yeah,
I'm ready. Look,
I agree with you exactly what you're
the
saying.
way
Like he
you
don't want
felt
to play.
about Tristan,
That dude ain't hurt.
yeah, man, come on. The way you felt
So,
about Tristan, I just need to get this dude the hell off my team. That's
right.
exactly how I feel about Kevin Love. I just need to get this dude the hell off my team.
Right. I'm gonna tell you somebody else who's disappeared all of a sudden, conspicuously. Is Torian Prince. Where is he?
Yeah, what's up with that?
Ain't nobody mentioned his name.
What's up with that?
I know he's on the injury report, but everybody's talking about Kevin Love coming back whenever, or Larry Nance Jr. coming back soon. Ain't nobody said nothing about Torian Prince. And Torian Prince was playing well. Now, is he another one that said sit me out and trade me somewhere?
I tell you what, he might be he might think of you. You just said it about 10 minutes ago. This roster is raggedy. So what assets, quote unquote, do we actually have? So he may have been some sweet spot in a trade potentially.
Because he's very, I mean, he surprised me a lot when he got here. Because when we
I
made
knew he
that
could
trade,
play.
I'm like,
No, I
right,
knew he
Prince,
could play.
I'm like, all right, but he, I was like, I like his game, man. I like, because he's somebody that I think that if the
Yeah, I
Cavs
like
wanted
that
to keep long term, I
I
wouldn't
like
mind
that kid.
that
And
at
I
all.
think as a team that's trying to be youthful, or a team that just is youthful, he's a positive asset. He's a definite asset. And you got to try to keep him as long as you possibly can. I'd have to look at his at the numbers to see where he is in his contract. But from what I understand, him and Jared Allen are both, you know, we got those guys for a few years before they're up for contracts. So that's a plus. You just,
Right.
kind of, I won't say build a team around them, but you build a team with them in mind.
Yeah, let me look up his injury real quick and see what because he just disappeared and I ain't heard nothing from this dude.
Well, I heard some other stuff today when it came to the Cavs. I think the Cavs have made it openly known that Chetty and hold on one second, it was somebody else. I think they said Chetty and Kevin Love are clearly guys that they're trying to move.
Yeah, you know what? Chetty hasn't been playing a lot lately.
Well, Chetty stinks. Actually, Chetty had a few. Wait. I'm sorry. Rest of the NBA. Chetty is actually an awesome player, and he's a great locker room guy. You should inquire of him.
Because I was like, man, because I started seeing Dean Wade getting all these minutes. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, where Chetty at? Dean Wade and Windler and Dotson. What's his name? Dotson and Lamar. All these weird people. Yeah. All these G League guys out here getting all this full out. And I'm like, where is Chetty Osman? The Cavs are clearly, and to be honest with you, for as much turmoil, I don't mean turmoil as far as discontent and malcontent, but just the roster, it's a different starting lineup like every night between injuries and all this stuff. The fact that they're 14-22 to me says a lot. And the fact that they play hard every night, like the one in the Philly and one Philly, that's just Philly being Philly, not taking the Cavs seriously. They do that. But still.
Philly is bipolar. Philly is bipolar, and they thought that the medicine for that bipolar was Doc Rivers. He's gonna have to get rid of some folks on that squad.
Yeah. Now, when he does have Embiid playing hard every night,
he does have Embiid.
I give him that.
But again, the same things are gonna happen because the makeup of this team is what it is. Embiid is playing way better than I thought he was gonna ever play. And here's what I mean when I say that. Doesn't mean that I didn't think he was gonna ever play well. Once I saw him reach a certain spot, I was like, yeah, this dude ain't gonna ever be better than that because he doesn't have the motor to do better or to try harder. He thinks he's made it already.
Right.
And he ain't won nothing. He ain't done nothing other than go to All-Star games and stuff like that. Yeah, he can shoot 3-pointers, and yeah, he can block a shot, and yeah, he can dunk on you, and yeah, but how many times did that win you a playoff series? How many times have you been in the conference finals? How many times have you been in the actual finals? None and none and none. I'm not impressed by that. Show me something else. Whether you like or love LeBron, the dude is in the conference finals every year. He's in the finals damn near every year. And you know what I mean? Like, you can't argue with the finished product.
Right.
And if you want to be considered one of the best in the league, potentially, you have to start doing those things. And Shaq says this all the time. This dude is probably the most dominant physically big man in the league right now, or he could be. But instead, he wants to stand out and shoot 3-pointers. And I understand that's where the game is, but you could do both if you actually worked at it. And it seems like that's what's happening. And Doc Rivers is probably a part of that. The problem is he has to get that same thought process, that hard work, and that consistency process through to the rest of them dum-dums over there. I don't know that Ben Simmons is that guy. I think Ben Simmons is what he is.
Yeah. I
just don't know that he's the guy that's gonna, turn that corner or help them turn that corner. I think.
Yeah, when I watched the Cavs play them, I was like, this is a matchup nightmare. I'm like, who's gonna guard the Simmons on the Cavs? Who's gonna guard Embiid? Bruh. And they figured out a way to win that game. And I was like, okay, that's just the Sixers not using. Although Embiid had a monster game, but when you have that much of a disadvantage, it shouldn't even be. It shouldn't be close.
That game should have never been that close. Because even outside of Embiid, Ben Simmons is 6'7", 6'8". So our guards are not quite midgets, but just short of being a dwarf. That's a mismatch all day. You could just kill these guys inside if you wanted to. Just pound. I know the game is different, but sometimes you got to do what's necessary to win the game. You know what I mean? You got to do things to just win the game. I'm playing against a smaller guy. Guess what? I'm 6'8". I'm taking this dude in the low. Boom, put him on my back. And I'm just going to quick spin and lay up. Because, again, like you said, if you leave me alone, I'm Ben Simmons. I'm going to pump this thing to Embiid. And guess what? Y'all lost the game. But that's not what we saw. And I think I think eventually I said the same thing about the Wizards some years ago. And people laughed me out of the bar that I was in. I said, when are the Wizards going to break that team up? What? Break that team up? Y'all crazy. You crazy. Blah, blah, blah. Look at what's happening today. I said that 4 years ago. And I love John Wall. But I was like, one of them dudes got to go. It ain't working. You just going to keep trying to make this work? It's not working.
Right.
Same thing is happening in Philly. Got to figure this thing out. But back to the Cavs. The Cavs had a spot where they lost, what was it, 9 straight?
10
straight. These dudes lost 10 straight. And everybody that I know said, oh, yeah, they getting the first pick in the draft. And I just kept saying, I was like, I don't think so. I didn't see it. I didn't feel that because I just felt like Bickerstaff ain't that kind of a coach.
Right. And plus, the draft doesn't work like that no more.
No, it doesn't. You know
what I'm saying? Like tanking doesn't.
The tank don't guarantee you nothing. That tank don't guarantee you anything anymore. So I just was like, man, I don't see that being. That's not how Bickerstaff came into the season. It didn't seem like that was his motivation, like to just be a coach that's like, all right, well, let's just wait till next year and see what happens. I feel like this dude's trying to make his imprint. I mean, and we saw that by them drafting Okor. Like we didn't necessarily want this kid. We thought we should have went a little bit bigger, but they wanted this kid because of his athleticism and because of his defense. And that's just the type of coach that he is. So all of a sudden we go from losing 10 straight and people talking a bunch of crap and people basically like, all right, that's it, it's over. And then these dudes just turn around and win 5 straight, casually turn around and win 5 straight. Like, is it me or are these dudes like freaking Jekyll and Hyde?
They are, but I said that. Remember, I said that right before they went into February. I said this tank, because remember, after we had beat Brooklyn back to back, everybody was super high on the Cavs. And I said the Cavs aren't that good. When they're playing,
you're right.
Yeah, I said when they're playing the elite teams, you're going to see them lose a lot of games, but then when they play teams more on their level, they can win a few. So I said you may see them lose 8, 9 in a row, and they're gonna come back and win 4. I said that exact thing.
Absolutely did. You did. I give you that.
That's just how they are. When they play teams on their level, they have a shot. When they play the elite teams, most likely they're not gonna play well. Now here's the thing: the Cavs are pretty much got the hard part of the schedule over with now.
Yeah,
I mean, you've played Brooklyn already. What?
Twice.
4 times? 3 times? They're done with them. Who else? They've played.
They played Boston twice.
Yeah, we may got 1 game with them. Yeah, so we still have a lot. So now we have a bunch of games against probably like the Orlando's and those type teams that we can.
The Hawks.
That we can compete with. I think we're done though. I think they didn't play the Hawks like 3 times already too.
Have we?
I believe so.
Nonetheless, I think that you're more first of all, you've been more right than you were incorrect when you made that assessment. The fact that they'll go on a win streak and then all of a sudden they'll suck ass and then they'll just go back on another win streak, because it just depends. A lot of it just depends on where they are and what is happening for them.
Yeah, I think the Cavs are going to make the playoffs, especially with this. Are they doing that dumb playing system again this year?
Yeah, they're doing a plan. I actually like that. I thought that was actually pretty cool.
So you have to be what, 10 to get into that or
I
not?
think so. I think you got to be 10, but I'd have to look at it to make the actual quote. I know last year it was that way. Uh, you're a 9 and 10, and they played in to get, I think, the eighth, to play against the eighth team, and then the eighth,
Okay.
whoever won that went in to be the eighth team. So it was not, it was it seven,
Yeah.
8 and 9 or something like that. It was something like that, and whoever won ended up being the eighth seed, which is how I think that's how Portland got in, and then they ended up getting ran out by the Lakers. But that was because they were so damn tired from coming back to win games that they was down every game. The dudes were down by 15, and they had to come back to win those games. So it just, I still think it's a good look. Gives other guys the opportunity, other teams the opportunity to potentially work their way into the playoffs.
Right.
However, the Cavs are right now at 14 and 22, people. So I'm getting ready to say this so that you guys understand. There's a reason that we do this show, not just because we want to be guys, narcissistic guys in front of a camera and a microphone and all that stuff. We said the Cavs had an opportunity to win. Now, while Sean probably was way more specific in terms of how the Cavs would play, I said the Cavs could, be 20 and 35 and still only be in the eighth spot, but still only be 2 games out of 6th place.
Yeah. Right.
So the Cavs right now, as of today, at this moment, they're 13th in the East, but they're only 3.5 out of 8th place. Just like,
no, really, if you want to be real about it, 3.5 out of 6th place.
That's listen, and that's my point.
Because 6, 7, and 8 are all they're tied. 6, 7, 8 all got 17 wins.
That's it. So again, we don't just do it. And I just explained this to a gentleman earlier when I was talking about the show over the weekend. I said, when you have a show, you have to do more research. You have to look at things a little bit differently. You can't just like off the cuff emotionally say stuff. I said, now, if you go back and look at our show, I've been very emotional in the show, but it was based in some level of research. You got to do some research. Got to kind of know what you're talking about. We didn't want to have a show. Sean too smart. Sean is too damn smart. Sean would not continue to show up on this show if all I was going to do is yell, scream, and come from an emotional position. He wouldn't. He wouldn't. Hell, if Sean was only going to do that shit, I wouldn't do it either. Because you'd be ruining the authenticity of the show.
Right.
The show should be about some level of facts and some thought process going into this thing. So that's why Sean knew. Sean said this before they went on a 9-game losing streak, that they would lose 8 to 10 games in a row, and nobody should be that stunned by that. Because, using his words, the roster is raggedy. And then they turn 5 or 6 straight, and guess what? They're only balancing themselves out. I think it does say a lot about the coaching staff, though, ultimately.
Because you think about it, man, how are they winning any games at all?
I don't disagree, bro.
With that team.
I'm
watching the other day, I'm like, they got Dean Wade out here with him. Matter of fact, he's starting. And Wendler and this Larry, what's his name? Lamar Stewart, whatever his name is.
Lamar Stevens. Talking about.
Yeah, Stevens. These guys running around here that I ain't never heard of.
And Dotson. I never heard of Dotson. Who's this Dotson cat? What's his name? Damien?
And every time he comes in, he gives them buckets, and then you don't see him again for like 3 or 4 games. But it's to me, it's a very weird. It's just weird, and they're pulling. A lot of it has to do with Sexton pulling games out. And Jared Allen. I'm saying, don't let me forget him, man. Jared Allen is balling.
Jared Allen been balling.
But
He's
a lot more versatile than I thought he was, because and when he was in Brooklyn, all you saw him doing was rebound and block shots.
Well, think about this. He was very challenged when he first got to Brooklyn in terms of offense. He wasn't one of those kids he wasn't like an AD who came out of college being a 20-point, 25-point scoring guy.
Right.
He's always been a rebounding, block shot type of cat. The scoring, you knew it was there, but it was inconsistent when he was in college. And then he got to the league, and I think the league might have been a little bit too fast. You know how that shit go. It was just a little bit too fast for him, I think. And being in Brooklyn, and it was crazy because this was before Kyrie and them were there, and this was before, definitely before KD was playing. You basically just had this dude being like a mute center. Like, hey, man, all we need you to do is block shots and rebound. Like, that's it. But he could apparently do way more than that. And I think he learned a lot by kind of just watching and understanding the game. Because I saw it last year in the playoffs. When Brooklyn was in the bubble. I was like, man, this kid can play. I don't know if it was mental, like in his mind, he was like, man, I think I can, but he wasn't quite sure of himself yet offensively. But I knew it was there, which is why I was high on that pick. If you go back and pay attention to what we said, I was very high. I mean, you were too, but I was very high on this trade, bringing in Jared Allen. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good trade. That's a good trade. And we got Torian Prince. Oh yeah, that's a good trade.
Really didn't give up anything at all. So
yeah, we won.
So after this long ass All-Star break, which is the longest All-Star break I've ever seen in my life, the Cavs don't play again until next Friday, which is ridiculous. You know why
they did that? Because LeBron was mad. That's the only reason they did.
Oh, that's what they. Okay.
Because LeBron didn't want to play an All-Star game at all.
Right, I heard him say that.
And he physically, verbally, openly went out and said that. So I think that was something to. If you show up, if you show up, we'll make sure you get a week or so just to chill or whatever. You know what I mean?
Because the NBA actually didn't make the second half schedule. It wasn't even they just did it, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so the whole full season, they pretty much was doing stuff by ear. Okay.
Yeah. Because they weren't 100% sure in terms of COVID, what was going to happen. All that stuff. But LeBron was pissed at the quick start of the season for his team anyway.
Right.
Everybody didn't go deep into the playoffs, and every team, of course, didn't win the championship. His team did, but I felt what the Lakers and the Heat felt, which is, damn, we just got finished playing last week. The league still was like, no, we're gonna do it this way, but we won't have an All-Star game. So that was the caveat with the union, and then you turn around and do a damn All-Star game. I know that the union still had to sign off on that, but I still feel like that was some bullshit all at the same time.
Right.
So,
all right, so that makes sense why the All-Star break is so long. All right, so
that's why
the Cavs come back and play the Pelicans. That's got a 3-game road trip coming back off the break. So they let the Pelicans, Atlanta. But that should be the last game with Atlanta. Then I think the Spurs or something like that. So,
and the Spurs playing pretty good right now.
Yeah.
But I've heard that all of their veterans are. This is the first time I've ever heard this before ever. So it lets you know a lot about where the Spurs are in their organization. I heard that almost all of their veterans are available for trade, and that's
that makes sense.
But really, when have you ever heard that though? When it came to
I wouldn't be surprised if this is Popovich's last year.
And I wouldn't be surprised either, though.
And then you can go and sell because they're gonna have to retool from scratch. to the veterans that they have, those guys, they're not going to win anything. You know, well, they got DeMar DeRozan, Patty Mills, where Rudy Gay is out there.
You have
Deontay Murray,
LaMarcus Aldridge.
LaMarcus Aldridge still there.
Yep.
So they got all of that, and they can't do nothing.
I mean, but you're talking about LaMarcus Aldridge. LaMarcus Aldridge isn't like the most mobile. He wasn't that mobile when he got there. The only reason I thought that would have been a monster of a move was because when he got there, Tim Duncan was still there, but then Tim Duncan retired. So he never actually played with Tim Duncan. Like
and
that was
all right. Yeah, they're sixth in the West. They're 18-13.
And they probably shouldn't be, though. Like, to be honest, they probably shouldn't be.
Right. And it's like they're behind. They missed some games due to COVID.
Yeah.
Because everybody else got like 36, 37 games. They only got 30.
They missed. I think they missed almost a week of games.
Right. And I wonder, are they talking about doing makeup games at all, or
not to my knowledge? But I don't know. I haven't heard anything. But we'll figure it out. You know, the Spurs are my other team, so I always pay attention to them. Outside of the Cavs, you know, the Cavs got a little bit of work to do, but I'm cool with where the Cavs are. I think Sean is.
Me too.
I think that's right where
it's here.
And we'll see if the rest of the team, if any trade or buyouts happen, if the team can rally and get themselves into the playoffs. I mean, we're talking about 4 freaking games, and you could be, hell, you only about 6 games out of having home field advantage.
having home court in the first round. That's really how bad the East is, man. The East is,
and that's what and again, we basically said that. Sean and I said that before the season started, that the East isn't really that great. So outside of the obvious teams, the top 3 teams are going to be the top 3 teams. That's just how basketball is. So let's kind of get off the Cavs. I got one more thing to do before we get the hell off. And I thought this was hilarious when I was trying to figure out stuff to do the show on. This one fell in my lap. So last night, James Harden went back to Houston for the first time since being traded. And for the first time in 7 years, he's not a member of the Rockets, right? So on coming back, there's always this thing of whoever comes back. There's always the question of will the fans boo? Will the team accept them back, et cetera, et cetera. Well, there's really no fans in most of these buildings, although Texas doesn't give a shit about anything, so it's probably packed in there. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So one of the interviews that they did with the owner of the Rockets, dude said, "Hey man, we love James, and James gave his heart and his soul and everything to the Rockets, and we're thinking of it, not it's a potential." This dude said, "Man, we're gonna retire this dude's jersey, period." I thought that was, I'm not gonna give you where I was on this, but I want to ask Sean, because I thought it was hilarious based on the guy that I've known for almost 40 years. I felt like he would have had something to say. I ain't gonna say what, but I thought he had something to say. Sean, do you think that the Houston Rockets should, could, or even need to entertain retiring James Harden's jersey?
Hell no. Hell no. That makes absolutely no sense. Everybody too loosey-goosey with all this stuff. Want to retire everybody's number, want to call everybody to go, and all of this stuff, man. Just pass around. People just doing too much. Like Harden played there 7 years. And it's like, no, especially the way that you left, you just pretty much just quit. I ain't playing here no more. And walked away. Like, no, and didn't come close to winning. Like, when they went to the Western Conference Finals once.
No, they can't close once.
Yeah, they want that. Yeah, they blew it against Golden State getting to the finals.
Yeah.
But no, but like how we were talking earlier, though, I was like, the NBA is a different animal. They let everybody in the Hall of Fame, and they don't have a problem, I guess, depending on what the player meant to the organization. Because look at the Cavs. The Cavs got a bunch of retired numbers up there, and none of them dudes deserve to have a number retired up there. Not really, but because of what I guess they meant to the organization at the time, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like, so who was it? Like Price, Doherty, Nance,
I think
Z,
it's Price, Doherty, Nance,
Austin Carr. And I think
Austin,
there's like a couple of other ones up there.
and what's my man name? What is his doggone name? I can't think of it.
Nate Thurman, I think.
Nate Thurman. Yep. Nate Thurman. Yep. So those are
so I think like in that from a Cavs standpoint, I think they look at what they meant to the team and to the city during a certain era.
Yeah.
And that's why they did it. Like Z got it. I mean, Z is the all-time leader in games played for the Cavaliers. Or he was. I think LeBron may have passed him by now. But something like that. Okay, Z gave his heart and soul to the team.
Yeah.
I get that.
I didn't have a problem, but I also was a part of that era. You know what I mean? So like 20 years from now, people are going to look in the rafters and say, what'd that dude do?
Yeah, because normally when you retire a number, because that person was an all-time, not just
in general,
great with the team. He was the all-time great in the sport, or they'll do it because of some other reason, like maybe the guy was a sudden death, you know, some tragedy.
But it's got to be
or something like that. But
to me, it has to be something significant, though. So to me, Mark Price deserves his joint retired. Now, does he deserve his more retired than, say, Isaiah Thomas? I wouldn't say that. No. However, from the organizational standpoint, Mark Price was as important to the Cavs as Isaiah might have been to the Pistons. So I get it. Same thing with Brad Doherty. So to me, those are the only two that are stone cold 100%. They got it right. And you know me, I'm not even no big ass Cavs fan of that era. I didn't like Brad Doherty at all. But when you go back and you look at his numbers, what he did in terms of the organization and what that group, those two, that tandem did for the Cavs during that era, yeah, hell yeah. Because when was their most successful era? It was that. That was it. So
and I think, like I said, I mean, the NBA is just a different animal when it comes to that. Because I just randomly looked up the Memphis Grizzlies and they retired numbers. They retired Tony Allen. I'm like, now what in the world? Him and Zach Randolph's numbers are retired.
Now, see, Z, first of all, I don't know that Z-Bo needs his jump retired because they ain't did nothing. I'm gonna tell you something.
That's what I'm saying. Like in Tony Allen.
But Tony Allen won Defensive Player of the Year while he was there.
So that ain't retired numbers.
I ain't heard jersey worthy. But again, we got to think within the spectrum of what we just. I think that's where the NBA is. It's about organizational feelings.
I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna do another random team. What's the
They would never have. Listen, who the hell, when the hell, and how the hell would the Memphis Grizzlies ever have anybody who was going to get a jersey retired?
They ain't been around long enough.
That's what I'm saying. So they want to be a part of it. They want their team and their arena to have some level of significance and a banner. And I think that was part of why we ended up doing Larry Nance too. I don't dislike that Larry Nance at all. But I don't think his jersey should be hanging up in the rafters.
I guess, you know what, now that I'm looking at all of this, it's more teams that got retired jerseys than I thought. So it is an organizational thing. I'm looking at Sacramento got 11 retired jerseys.
For
I
what?
can't name.
Look, for what?
I can't name 11 Sacramento Kings,
Mitch
let
Richmond.
alone
That's it. Mitch
anybody that
Richmond
would be worthy.
and Kenny Smith. That's it. Billy Owens. That's it.
Billy Owens. Okay, so they're doing guys that just play with them for a minute. Okay, Tiny Archibald. Yeah, they stretching. Tiny Archibald, Mitch Richmond. Mitch Richmond going there for a cup of coffee.
Right.
But no. He played 517 games with them. I didn't know he played that long.
His first 5 years he was there, and then he went to Golden State
I thought he was with Golden State first.
as a part of Run TMC.
Okay, I thought he was with Golden State first, and then went to.
No. He was in Sacramento first, and he was killing cats. But you got to remember that was during that era where we never saw the West Coast bad teams. We never saw the Nuggets play. Like, only time we saw the Nuggets play was when they played the Cavs, and we had to stay up. It seemed like we had to stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning to see the game. But that was the only time you got to see Alex English and Fat Lever and those guys play. That was the only time when we were younger. Right. That was the only time you got the chance to see those guys. You know, like when I tell people like Ricky Pierce and all them, people will be like, man, who are you talking about? Why are you talking about those dudes? I'm like, Dale Ellis was a great shooter. Who the hell is Dale Ellis? I'm like, man, you don't know nothing about their basketball, but that was a completely and totally different era. But there's somewhere that Dale Ellis's jersey is hanging in somebody's arena. Somewhere. Alex English was a great scorer, but somebody would argue me down that he wasn't today.
Right.
But Alex English's numbers are hanging in the rafters of whatever Denver's.
And you know what? And then look at this. So evidently the NBA having your number retired isn't that big of a deal because it could like Peja Stojakovic, Vlade Divac, and Chris Webber. I'm like, so I guess to them, no, I'm not kidding at all. I'm looking at this list. Now, Oscar Robertson makes sense. You know, that's the Cincinnati Royals. That's that same franchise. And Tiny Archibald. So really, in the NBA, it's more of a ceremonial thing. But like in football and baseball, to get your number retired, man, you got to be the man.
You got to be the guy. You got to be the guy.
Because look, man, look at the Browns. Like the Browns, for once, they had the history that they had. They don't have any retired numbers except for.
They haven't retired Jim Brown's jersey. They just
they did.
Did they?
Yeah, his jersey is retired. That's the only one, though.
I was about to say, listen.
I think him and I want to say him and Otto Graham, I believe, are the only two.
The only reason I said that because on Madden, they always get somebody 32, and I'm like, how? I go in every time. I'm changing that, dog. You can't be 32.
I don't think Madden cares.
It should.
I don't think Madden cares. But, you know, like Bernie's number wasn't retired. Ozzie Newsome.
And that's good too. But guess what? Hey, but I think the other difference is in football, you got 50-something people.
Yeah, right.
So it's hard if you start just randomly, just okay, yours is retired, yours is retired. What numbers you gonna use? So I think that's part of that one. And basketball probably has the smallest roster, so it's easier to retire.
Right. That makes a whole lot of sense.
You know what I mean? It's just easier to retire those numbers. I think that's my take on that. Not to again, not to say that the organizations don't have their own sentimental, favorites, but I do agree with you that they go a little bit overboard in the NBA. Even the consideration that somebody like Anderson Varejao should get us potentially. We're having a discussion about retiring this dude's number. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
I'm gonna tell you something else they go overboard with too. Two things that I'm sick of seeing. One, I'm sick of seeing in the NBA, every time a player leaves and comes back to that place,
the video tribute,
the tribute videos. Yeah, they're doing tribute videos for dudes that have played there a year and a half and came back.
Listen,
that's too much.
I don't have a problem with them doing a video tribute to a guy like LeBron, to a guy like Kyrie, to a guy like KD and all that. But Like when the Ilgauskas came back and they did a video tribute to him, I was at the game. I was like, for what? When did Ilgauskas win the MVP or?
Right.
Listen, man, what did he do? Why are we watching this? Why are we having this moment?
And the second thing that I'm sick of is the farewell letters everybody has to give when they leave and go someplace else.
Well, they don't want to listen. We both were there. We saw the level of hatred and vitriol that was spewed upon LeBron James on his return to Cleveland. Nobody wants that. No,
but we're a different breed of fan, though.
I mean, we are.
I guess it depends on where you leave and where you play it at.
However, that changed the game. Like that changed the game throughout the NBA and throughout how guys leave. When guys decide to leave, like Cleveland fans, I felt jilted on a bunch of levels when LeBron left. And a lot of people think it's just because, oh, that meant y'all weren't gonna win no more. No. That wasn't the highest point for me. Because I was a Cavs fan. I'm at this point, I'm back home from the service. I'm in. I like the Cavs. I'm a season ticket holder. And I bought these tickets so that I can get playoff tickets, because that's the way you got your tickets. Excuse me, that's how you got your playoff tickets, was you re-upped for the next season. That guaranteed your playoff tickets for that previous season.
Right.
That's how they pull you in. So you mean to tell me, you son of a bitch, that you leaving and I gotta go watch Booby Gibson? Are you kidding me right now?
Samardo Samuels.
Right. Watch these guys play basketball. Mo Williams, Samardo Samuels, Alonzo G. Like, yeah, I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off because of this. I'm pissed off because I had to watch 26 games straight of losing. Most of those games was at home.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm pissed off. And I feel like LeBron owes me $5,000. I only did this because I thought you was going to make it to the finals. And you didn't. It ain't your fault. I know, because Mike Brown's a goddamn idiot. However, that's how I felt back then. So,
yeah, like that was because when he left, man, he literally stripped the whole franchise down. The only did you not have any players in the court, they went to those dull, boring uniforms. They even stripped any pizzazz they had in the uniforms down. It's like the whole franchise went to a state of depression for about 4 or 5 years.
And then, so I was pissed. And I was out, to me, rightfully so. So when this dude comes back, yeah, I'm booing him. I'm not booing him necessarily because I hate him. But then the dude left. I'm going to tell you when I really took it personal. I was already a little bit bitter. Took it personal when this dude wrote a letter in the Akron Beacon Journal to the Akron.
Yeah.
I said, man, you know what, you son of a bitch? Okay. I said, okay. You drew the line, not me. You drew the line, bro. You mean to tell me you think that those 22,000 people that show up every night is 22,000 people from Akron? That's what you think? Bet.
Right.
That's a bet. That's a bet. I can't wait to see this dude again. I'm going to boo the hell out of you.
That was LeBron being as petty and passive aggressive.
Yeah, that was silly, man.
And I remember that.
When people try to say, oh, man, y'all went too far. No, we didn't. You wasn't here. You were outside.
Oh, yeah, we didn't go too far at all. They don't understand the psyche of our fan and the fact of how he did it. I think if LeBron would have simply, if you'd have did it quietly and transitioned out, yes, it still would have been some vitriol when he came back.
But it wouldn't have been like that.
It wouldn't have been to the level of it.
Like, man, you're gonna do a whole hour-long TV show to tell somebody 20 seconds worth of news.
But the crazy part is, like, when I woke up that morning, like for some reason I had ESPN was on. I had left my TV on, And then when I woke up probably about 6:37, the first thing I heard was Stephen A. Smith saying something about Miami. And remember, nobody had heard about,
Yeah, it
Miami.
was all Chicago or New York.
Yeah, so when I was like, oh damn, so he's going to Miami. And that's when I had texted my homeboy, one of my old college roommate down in Fort Lauderdale. And I said, yeah, y'all about to get LeBron. He was like, man, you don't know that. I was like, yeah. I was like, Stephen A. Smith coming out and putting that out there like that. I was like,
He's
that's
not
where
putting that out there at that time in his career. He ain't doing that unless he had some solid information.
Right. So yeah, that was kind of a surreal time. And like I said, I was more mad at the way he did it.
Yeah.
Necessarily what he did, but how he did. Now, Dan Gilbert went too far with all of that stuff too. But everybody was emotional. Because for one thing, like we had been in a sports drought for quite a while. And LeBron had brought us, even though we didn't win a championship, he brought excitement back to the city for 7 years. Put Cleveland on the map. Cleveland was like the place to be sports-wise.
Yeah.
And then you just have it ripped away, like all of a sudden. Like, this is what people don't understand about us. Like, things happen to us that don't happen to other places. Everybody was like, well, we didn't deserve to have a superstar. Even when he came back, we called him. It's like, for some reason, OKC, it's cool if OKC can have Durant, but Cleveland can't have LeBron. Like, somehow we're just undeserving of good things.
And then it was the fact that we cursed him when he left. Like, we should have just bowed down and accepted. Listen, this city behind me right here, we're one of the hardest. We're Midwest. So Detroit, Cleveland, St. Louis, we're Indianapolis, we're hardcore cities, dog. We're not nobody's secondary nothing. So when somebody disses us, we don't take it well. And I'm not mad at people for being upset. Now, I may be mad at how some people voiced being upset. Like, I ain't burning no $100 jersey, dog.
No.
I'm not doing it. I paid $100 for it. I'm not burning it because now I'm just burning my money. I'm not going to do it. I may not wear it again, but I'm not going to burn it. Like, that's silly. I'm also not going to make threats on this dude's whole family. And
yeah, that's stupid.
That's just silly. All of that stuff is nonsensical and it's silly. Now, will I root for this guy? Nope. Will I accept anything short of what I think is a genuine apology or a genuine statement, whatever that might be, whatever the situation calls for? Not if I don't feel like it's genuine. I'm just not. And I never did. And LeBron never, gave an excuse or an apology. He did try to clean it up a little bit later, but he never really fully dug in. And that's okay. At the end of the day, it's okay, honestly, because we all got over it and we're all years past it. But at that time, oh no, I'm booing the hell out of you, dog. Like, I almost blew my eardrum out. It was so many people in there booing, and me booing, trying to boo louder than the other people around me. Almost blew my eardrum out, dog. Almost exploded my eardrum. That's how frustrated I was at that. Like, I've never felt that kind of energy in a place ever in my life.
Oh, me either.
Like, it was so surreal and so ridiculous at times when you go back and look at it. I wouldn't change it. Just like the bottle gate, I wasn't there, but I was like, while I don't condone throwing what Chris Rock say, I ain't saying he should have done it, but I understand.
Right.
I totally understand. So all of that to say, me and Sean always love to go off on tangent. All of that to say, James Harden could potentially get his number 13 put up in the rafters.
And now that I went and looked through and looked at all the other ridiculous people that I had their numbers retired, why not? You know what I'm saying? Because at least he is second all time on the Rockets scoring list. You know what I'm saying?
I was gonna say, like, for me, I kind of saw how that could be the case. And I always say things like hanging a jersey, excuse me, it's way easier, especially basketball wise. Hanging a jersey in the Raptors is way easier than saying this person deserves a statue. A statue is no. Does he deserve a statue outside of the Toyota Center? No. People are like, oh, LeBron deserves a statue outside of the Cavs Stadium for winning the championship. Okay. Well, then so does Kyrie. And I don't think Kyrie deserves one either. So, you know what I mean? Like, no, no, and no. You know, Shaq and Kobe relate to their years. And of course, Kobe did, because he was a Laker his whole life. But Shaq refers to his years as a Laker more than he refers to any other part of his career. So he feels like he's a Laker for life. Okay, that's fine. Michael Jordan, yeah, he played for the Wizards, but come on, dog. What the hell does Chicago have before that? So he deserves a damn statue. Larry Bird should have a statue. These are the all-time, these are the GOATs of what they did in those positions. There's nobody who's played for the Cavs that should have a statue outside of the stadium yet. If LeBron would have stayed his whole career, or if he would have stayed longer, I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't. And the way he left the first time. He didn't necessarily leave poorly the second time. And I'm happy for that, because had he left poorly the second time, I wouldn't want nothing to do with his ass at all. But
right.
He definitely deserves to.
In his defense, he hasn't even taken any shots at Cleveland at all. Not even passing.
No. This time has been totally different than the first time. That's why I said he deserves. Truly, he deserves his a retirement ceremony, a number retirement ceremony.
Right. And but LeBron is such an egomaniac that people keep saying that he's going to try to come here for like one last year.
I keep hearing that too. I didn't believe he would come back the second time.
That's true. Me either.
I didn't believe that.
I keep saying no, and I'm like, he ain't gonna do that again. But to him, it's still the closest thing he has to home, and he may do that. Like he may want his farewell tour. To be. I can see him doing something like that. So
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll definitely.
I wouldn't be against it. The only thing and the only reason I was against him coming back the second time will be the same reason I'm against him coming back again. LeBron always comes with mess, especially when he comes here. There's always some extra stuff with him.
Right. So this year is probably the first year where he's not doing that stuff he normally does. I think he's at a point now where he thinks that he hadn't reached the pinnacle. Now he's like, okay, I won a championship with three different teams, where he was the focal point. I don't know if anybody else can say that. I don't think. I could be wrong.
I have to do some research, but I don't think so either.
I don't think, Kareem won with 2.
Mm-hmm. Everybody else,
Mike Bird, everybody else was just
with one squad.
Maybe 2. One probably. There's probably a few guys out there maybe done it with 2 teams, maybe.
I mean, but you have to be the guy. You got to be the guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. As the guy, I'm trying to think. There's probably somebody else out there that we missing.
Who could have? I can't think of anybody short of LeBron that has done it with more than 2 teams.
Shaq got it with 2 teams, but Shaq wasn't the guy.
As a guy, but he wasn't the guy the second time, for sure. He did his part, but he wasn't the guy. I can't think of
anybody. Yeah,
and so now in this moment, I'd have to do the research, but in this moment, right. I can't think of anybody else. I mean, and that's an incredible thing. That's why I think he is. LeBron is an all-time great. I still don't think he's the GOAT, but I do believe that he's one of the greatest players that's ever played. He's one of the greatest players I've had the ability to watch.
Yeah, that's not even up for debate at all.
On a regular debate, but like for me to be able to sit in the same building with this dude and watch him all the time, yeah, I saw some stuff that frustrated me. But for the most part, I say 85 to 90% of the time, I was like, did you even just see what this dude did? Like to watch him all the time, it was crazy. It was crazy to see, especially
Right.
face. So, but so yeah, I said he probably should. Harden should probably have his joint retired because I don't know anything else happening in Houston over the last 7 years or anytime soon that'll be worth considering retiring. Who else you gonna
Yeah,
retire?
and they won't do it no time soon. I mean,
They ain't talking
it'd be
about
sometime down the line, but
but
yeah.
I think the dude is just showing some respect because now that might be the high end of respect for him, whereas people felt like Dan Gilbert was the low end of disrespect or the high end of disrespect rather. So when he was like, yo, saying whatever that letter he wrote out about LeBron. So it could have went one way or the other way. This dude, the owner in Houston, could have been disrespectful, but instead, the dude chose to be more respectful and understand that, the dude is an entity within himself. And he respected his decision, even though he came to camp looking like, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. This fool showed up at games with a snack pack from Kim's with sauce on everything.
Right.
But he running fast breaks, Putin. Oh man, I can't.
He's still big as hell, but
he's still big. He ain't as big as he was when he was in Houston.
I'll give him credit for this, and it's one thing I think we talked about, like who was gonna sacrifice their game to make that work, and it's been him. He's been out there running point forward, which when you think about it, in the way his game is, the way he's ball dominant, that's his game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, as long as he's willing to pass the rock.
He's still in his window. And you pointed out, he does still have a lot of assists for a guy that averages close to 30 points a game, almost for his whole starting career.
Right.
He still, so it's not that he can't share the rock. The problem is when he's the primary guy, he just dribbles the crap out of the ball, gets you deep into the clock, and now it's just an ISO one-on-one thing. I think you have to do something different when you got a KD on the floor. I think you have to do something different when you have a Kyrie on the floor, and you damn sure got to do something different when you have a KD and a Kyrie on the floor at the exact same time. You can't just and I ain't saying that these guys are primed for the title. I just think that they're starting to really generate offensively what they need. Defensively, they need some help.
Right.
They're gonna have to do something different defensively, but offensively, I
think they'll come out the East pretty easily now. Because one thing, Boston is having issues. I didn't realize they were having as many issues. I saw a story on them the other day where they're not gelling well at all.
I don't know if that's so now. Guess what? Guess who looks like the smartest dude in the room?
Kyrie.
Gordon Hayward.
Oh, okay.
Gordon Hayward looked like the smartest dude in the room. You're like, no, y'all go ahead and buy me out, dog. I'm good. Well, you must be out your mind, dog. You're gonna turn down the potential to make $30 million. You must be out your damn mind. Yeah, I'm just gonna opt out, man. I'm good.
Right.
And then he went down to Charlotte and got $30 million. It must be something going on that, again, kind of like what we were saying about DeAndre. I mean, not DeAndre. Why do I keep calling this dude DeAndre? Andre Drummond and the Cavs, where there's something potentially going on in the background that we don't know and haven't heard about. I think that's the same thing.
One thing with some of these young guys, remember like Jason Tatum, these guys, they barely 20 years. I think they're like 21, 22.
I think Jason Tatum is 22, 23-ish.
Yeah, and you have a lot of success early. Mm-hmm. So when you have that much success early, sometimes you feel that you've arrived. You don't have to listen to the coach anymore. and you kind of doing your own thing. Like, I'm that guy. Like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, like, I'm that guy. And
they are.
no, well, you are, but you still haven't won anything yet.
Right.
You're still
You're
still learning. Like you're 22 years old. Your game is not fully honed yet.
No, you're right.
You're just freaky athletic. And I think that's what happens to a lot of these young guys that get success early. Not even success early, just guys that just have that much talent and then are that good, and everybody's telling you how good you are. Because Brad Stevens didn't all of a sudden forget how to coach. Because a lot of people are blaming him. They're like, well, he lost control of the team, blah, 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 blah. Like, Brad Stevens is a hell of a coach.
But is he? What does he want?
No, but he's taking that young team quite far.
Now, I'm it's part of me that's playing devil's advocate. It's part of me that is in the thought process that we keep saying that this dude is so great. Is he really that great? Now, I'm not disputing whether he can coach or not. The dude can coach, and we've seen him be successful. But Gordon Hayward opted out. Kyrie didn't want to come back. It's something happening in that place that has these guys like not here. Because
they ain't exactly want Kyrie back though.
Listen, I ain't disputing that. But here's my thing. Kyrie could have stayed if he wanted to. He could have worked that out. Now, we've talked about that on the show. I think Kyrie's style for what the Celtics want to do is totally different. It's just different. It doesn't allow them all to mesh the right kind of way. Not that Kyrie is not or could not be a guy that could do that. Just what Kyrie was, he's ball dominant, and he wants to, when it gets to certain parts of the game, he wants to dance.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think Kemba Walker is a good fit with them either. I think they need a old school point guard, a Jason Kidd, a Rondo or Jason Kidd type guy, or even a Mike Conley, somebody like that.
I felt like Kemba fit them better than Kyrie did.
Well, they're both ball dominant. Like, Kemba wants to score too.
But Kemba is a guy that had to score, especially being in Charlotte, even to keep his team in the game. But I felt like going to Boston, having guys that you could defer to, and not just guys that you could defer to, really solid ball players to defer to. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, who can fill it up. These dudes can get you 40 a night, both of them.
Right.
So I thought he plays more traditional point guard. He played kind of traditionally in college. He did fill it up, but he could play. He's a guy that can still he's a playmaker.
Right.
Not that Kyrie ain't a playmaker, but he's just not one of those guys that's going out every night getting 8-9 assists a game.
Right. Now I'm looking at his stats from this year. He's averaging 18 points and 4.5 assists, which is that's not enough for your point guard. And
that's not enough assists. No, that's not enough assists.
And he's shooting 38% from the floor, and that's atrocious. You could not have your lead guard shooting unless you Jason Kidd and you dishing out 28 assists a night.
But that's the only way that you can do that. So a guy like Kemba, I agree. A guy like Kemba, if he's shooting 30-something%, you know what that says to me? He's shooting too many jump shots. And I haven't watched a single Celtics game. Shooting too many jump shots, he needs to get to the basket, which creates for other people. You know what I mean? And while Kemba can knock shots down, I mean, this dude is, when he get hot, Kemba can be nasty. But you need to go to the basket more. But I don't know what because I haven't watched any games. I can't say that this is what's happening.
Yeah, I have. Now that's the second half of the season coming up, I'll be paying more attention to the NBA.
Yeah.
Even Jason Tatum is shooting 43% from the floor.
And they got to do better. And I think, again, they're shooting too many jump shots.
Right.
too many forced shots. Nothing's coming easy. Which when do things come a little bit easier? When you start to get to the basket a little bit. It's like football. When does the play action work better? When you can run the ball. So you got to get inside in basketball. Once you start penetrating, that's when you have the ability to kick out because the defense collapses. You can kick out, and now you get more open shots instead of that one-on-one stuff. And I think that's what's happening. I just think it's more one-on-one stuff that's happening. You see guys, Jaylen Brown wants to be the guy. Not that he can't, but I think he wants to be the guy. And I think Jason Tatum wants to be the guy. So now they're taking shots that they probably shouldn't take. I mean, but it's still early in the season. We only 35 games in the season. We're halfway through the season. Right. They're 18. I think they're 18 and 17 or something like that. So they still have an opportunity to turn this whole thing around on the back half.
Yeah, they're still. I say because the East is so bad. They're fourth in the East, 19 and 17.
Look, again, the Cavs are only, in terms of wins, we only 4 wins out of 4 places. I told y'all. So
if the Cavs host a playoff series,
listen,
that would be the. You know what? I'm not even gonna go that far because that ain't gonna happen. but that would be nuts if they were on some type of run and that ended up happening. But look, partner, we're about at that 2-hour mark.
Yeah, so we're right at it. So let's go ahead. Let's round this thing out. Again, thanks, bro, for making some time. I'm glad that we were able to find the time and we were able to sit down and hash this thing out. Again, this is Two Guys and a Mic. We're still streaming on all of your audio platforms from Spotify to I haven't done this in a while. I used to be able to rattle this up.
Podcast,
Spotify,
Anchor.
There you go.
Apple,
Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts,
iTunes.
Why do I want to say Twitch? It's not Twitch. It's Anchor. Sean just said it. Anchor Podcast. Right. And we're also doing the YouTube page. You can find us at Two Guys and a Mic 216 on YouTube.com. Come check us out on the videos. We have a number of them up that you can still access and still hit the subscribe button and still hit the play button and get our playlist, on the high end. And we also have our Facebook and our Instagram pages. Come check us out. We'll just continue to put content on there. Now that I've stumbled through that. Listen, people, I haven't done this in a while. It's been a while. The last maybe 2 or 3 shows Sean has done. So here I am, stumbling through it. Okay, it happens. But listen, bro, I love you, man. Be careful.
All right, love you too, bro.
And
you have a good rest of your week.
You too, bro. See y'all later. Peace.
Peace out.